It's time now for a look at the latest in local news. In the news, bond has been denied in the case of the state of Georgia versus John Jankowski, as Superior Court Judge Roger Lane on Wednesday listened to both the state and the defense argue for a bond or against a bond, and ruled at this time bond has been denied. The state, represented by Assistant DA Tiffany Montenegro, who told the judge that the state has 12 written statements from 12 different women who say they were drugged and raped by the defendant, and outlined the details to law enforcement during their 2-month operation about women claiming they were drugged at local drinking establishments, and that their undercover agent was also sexually assaulted and drugged at a local drinking establishment by the defendant. District Attorney says that the drug was opium, as the officer had to be taken to the hospital, and the drug opium was found in her system, and the same drug opium was found in the defendant's vehicle during the investigation and his arrest. John Jankowski was defended by attorney Adrian Browning, who called several witnesses to the stand on Wednesday. All said they're shocked by the charges and state that John Jankowski is ready to prove his innocence. Taking the stand Wednesday to defend John Jankowski, his two stepsisters, Janet Miller and Kathy Hodges, who both state he could live with them if he needed a place to live. Also taking the stand, Ronald and Christy Popo, who say they've been close friends with John Jankowski for 35 years. They've been on vacations with him, have socialized with him, and they state they simply can't believe he's been arrested. The state did report that he has been arrested in the past and charged with DUI twice, but that was over 20 years ago. Also testifying on his behalf was Susan Simmons of the VFW. She told the court that John's an officer with the VFW and has always been nothing but kind and helpful. Defense attorney Adrian Browning told the court that her client has health issues. He has type 2 diabetes, has had recent foot surgery, says he has complained that he's not getting his insulin shots in jail, and as he's supposed to. Browning told Judge Roger Lane that her client is innocent until proven guilty, and this was not the punishment phase of the trial. She says he's the perfect candidate for a bond. State says they wanted bond denied. They see him as a flight risk and state that if he got out of jail, they state he would simply do it again. As they state, again, they have 12 women who have come forward with written statements. The same thing happened to them that happened to the undercover agent. Judge again denied bond in the case. The next step is a preliminary hearing. Adrian Browning asked after the hearing if the defense could revisit the bond issue once again, to which the judge agreed. In other court cases from Wednesday, bond also denied in the case of the state of Georgia versus Heather O'Neill. She faces several drug charges and felony probation violation. She has a court hearing set for August 9th. State says she's been kicked out of PDC for simply not showing up. She was represented by public defender Jennifer Carver, who argued the defendant has a 7-month-old child, has a place to live in Savannah with the child's father. Once again, though, Judge Roger Lane denied bond in that case. The judge did allow a bond and set up $50,000 bond for Chrissy Washington, facing trafficking in cocaine and possession of other drug charges with intent to distribute. She's represented by attorney Adrian Browning, who argued that her client just got caught up with the two co-defendants in the case, her husband and son, and that she has been employed at Chemtol for close to 20 years, and her job is waiting for her if she was released on bond. Her sister and brother both testified on her behalf Wednesday, state that she simply got wrapped up in something that she knew nothing about, but the two co-defendants remain in jail. Judge Lane again set bond in this case at $50,000 with strong stipulations, one that she simply cannot have any contact with the co-defendants. And again, those were the cases heard Wednesday by Judge Roger Lane in Wayne County Superior Court. We'll be back with more news after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. In other news, Jesup City Council meets this evening at 7 p.m. for their regular monthly meeting, which fell on Tuesday, July 4th, so it was pushed back to this evening. Back on the agenda, the first reading of their budget, which failed to pass at their June meeting with a 3-2 vote in favor of the proposed budget. But with just 5 commissioners currently on the board, the charter requires 4 votes. The budget is expected to pass this evening, as Commissioner Tim Cockfield, who voted against the budget, along with Commissioner Bill Harvey, has relayed to WIFO that he and Harvey will vote in favor of the budget tonight, even though Commissioner Tim Cockfield feels the city is spending too much money. Also back on the agenda tonight is the revisiting of the appointing of a commissioner in District 5 to fill out the remaining term of longtime Commissioner Ray House, who passed away. A special call meeting, the city had 3 names interested and people willing to take the position. Those names were David Baldwin, former Mayor David Earl Keith, and former City Manager Mike Deal. First, Commissioner Stanley Todd motioned for the former Mayor David Earl Keith to be appointed. That was seconded, and the vote was 3-2 in favor. But both Commissioners Tim Cockfield and Bill Harvey voted no, stating that they had already committed their vote and support the former City Manager Mike Deal. Tim Cockfield then motioned for Mike Deal to be the appointing commissioner, and Bill Harvey seconded that motion, but that motion failed 2-3 with Commissioners Stanley Todd, Shirley Armstrong, and Pamela Schuman all voting no. So no one's been appointed at this point on July the 11th. That'll mark 45 days since the council has not appointed anyone, so the appointment would fall in the hands of Governor Brian Kemp. Commissioner Tim Cockfield is hoping tonight to nominate Mike Deal once again and hopes that the board will receive the necessary 4 votes. Former Mayor David Earl Keith has since withdrawn his name from consideration altogether. If no appointment is made tonight, the governor could appoint someone, or he could just let the seat sit vacant until November election. Qualifying for that seat begins in August. Commissioner Tim Cockfield believes since the former mayor has withdrawn his name that he can hopefully get Mike Deal approved tonight and avoid the governor's involvement. And WFLFM will be at City Hall this evening. We'll have a full report on Friday's newscast. We'll be back with some final news notes after this word from our sponsor, the commercial messages, so please stay tuned. Final notes news: a sheriff's deputy in Middle Georgia has been shot and killed after he was shot during a traffic stop in Cordova, Georgia early Wednesday morning. He's the first man for law enforcement in the state of Georgia to be killed in the line of duty this year. 26-year-old Deputy Tyree Brown was conducting a traffic stop on a suspicious truck in the middle of US 280 around 3:40 a.m. when he determined that the truck was allegedly stolen. Suspect, identified as 25-year-old Sean Cross of Unadilla, had been wanted for several burglaries, according to the GBI. After the shooting, the suspect is accused of taking the deputy's patrol vehicle, which law enforcement pursued through several counties. When Brown checked the truck, Cross is accused of shooting him and then taking the vehicle. The deputy, who lived in Macon County, was in critical condition, was taken to Crisp County Hospital, where he later passed away. He'd been with the department for over a year. Wayne County Chamber of Commerce has selected its leadership class of 2023-2024. Class consists of Kyle Bratt of the Wayne County Sheriff's Department, Janet Carter from Coastal Pies Technical College, Jill Clary with the UGA Extension Service, Cody Collins from RIAM, Angela Darden Rivers from Bloodborne Labs, Stephen Rouse from the Jesup PD, Morgan Saul from the Press Sentinel, Angie Sturgill from Interstate Credit Union, Faith Tesson from Fairhaven, and Stephanie Williams from Wayne Empowerment Association. Co-chairs are Sherna Spearman Lott with the Wayne County Board of Education and Chris Hamilton with the Jesup PD. Shadows who will co-chair next year are Iman Johnson with the Wayne County Board of Education and Jason Weaver, the mayor of Scriven, Georgia. And that's going to do it for latest in local news. Sports comes your way in a few minutes. Bob Morgan's having a great day.